Alrighty. So this game is from Chris. 244 hands. Damn, son. We'll do this quickly, then we'll do Yao's game. So it's a 3 rebuy, right? Well, why aren't you double rebuying, bro? Oh, here we go. He finally rebuys. Yeah, you always want to double stack when you start the tournament. Me and Sam and Ness and I, as my mother would say, discussed the rebuy strategy. So it's in our... If you want to learn more about rebuy strategies and exactly why you do this, well, we didn't actually do it, but his friend, a good 3 rebuy player, has done the math on rebuys and when you should double rebuy and when you should single rebuy. And basically the TLDR is always double rebuy when you enter the tournament, no matter what. And when you bust out, single rebuy. And you always take the add-on. So when you bust, you only ever buy in for the 1 stack, never double stack, because the equity that you gain by double stacking isn't worth the extra $3. Basically, is the TLDR. Mine's just short. Nah, yeah, send it through. I'll do both. I got plenty of time. Send it through. I'd love to see your game, Yabio. I want to spread the love. Yeah, it was a really fun hand, that Pocket Queens. You know, it just shows you guys how important bet sizing is. Because if he had just bet half pot, I would fold. I'd fold 100%. Actually, no, I wouldn't fold. I would just call. But I would feel more uncomfortable calling half pot than calling full pot. Anyway, yeah, I wouldn't fold. What am I saying? Because I check back flop. But okay. Yep, we have nothing. Several months old. I wasn't c-betting enough and my sizings were not great in comparison to how I play now, so it'll be interesting to see my mistakes. Alright, I'll keep that in mind when I'm reviewing it. Thanks, Chris. Will you review my roulette session? If you send me a hand history of your roulette session. I can teach you how to win flips, red and black. Win slightly less than flips is what they are. Like 49% flips. Wait, what happened here? Threes? Yeah, like, this is okay. I'd probably do this as well. But on a weak table, you can actually just limp. Because threes in middle position, it's pretty marginal. Because if you get called, the hand doesn't play very well. And you've got a lot of people behind you. But on a weak passive table, low stakes, I definitely prefer limping. Because people don't ISO enough, they're not going to be that aggressive, and you're very often just going to see a limped pot with threes, which is what you want. You want this to go multi-way. Yeah, so you can probably save yourself some money. Anyways, so that's right. It's not a big deal. Raise is the second best option, in my opinion. It's pulse.tv.au@gmail.com. So if the opponent had the king, he should bet full pot, or maybe even more. Well, what should he do, or what do I think he would do? I think if he actually had the king, he wouldn't bet full pot. He'd bet small, because he's really happy with his 3 of a kind, and he wants to get more value. But I mean, against me, if he's playing against me and he has the king, he should probably just shove. Because I'm never folding against a shove. Any pair. Because it just looks weak. And he would own me. But, yeah, people don't do that. No one's gonna level me that hard and have trips and just go all in for 2x pot. They're just going to bet small. So yeah, what should he do? If he has a king there, if I was playing against me and I had a king, yeah, I think I'd still just bet small and then overbet shove river. Or bet small and just shove river. Because then you can balance your whole range. And you're going to do that with everything, like even your medium pairs. Yeah, just... betting big with a king there doesn't make much sense. Because most of the time, your opponent's going to have nothing and just fold. Like, he got kind of unlucky that... I think a lot of people, if they had a medium pair there, they just fold, like queens on a king-high board if the guy bets full pot, because it's quite scary. But I know that he can't really have a king there, so I'm one of the players that will call him. But then he's just bluffing, because he had 8s. He's just bluffing with his pair of 8s. With 8s, he should just check call again on the turn. And probably fold pre-flop, actually, is what he should really be doing. Limpy limpy. Good. Yeah, I like that fold with Queen Jack under the gun. More limps. Nice, I like the call. Ooh. All the draws missed. Yeah, I think you got a call here. Both flush draws missed. Great call. I love that call. Well done, Chris. I know this is an old hand history, but that's really good hand reading. Yeah, like even though his bet was quite big, it's a ballsy call that you have to make, but think about his range in the turn. It's flush draws, straight draws. Occasionally he has a king X or a 2. But with a 2, wouldn't he bet bigger on the turn? So this 150, I think, is heavily weighted towards draws. And because the river, both the draws missed, you know, the straight draws and the flush draws, you definitely have to call here. So you read that situation very, very well. Because the key to this hand is on the turn, his bet sizing. Most people, when they have trips here or a king, they're going to bet bigger because they're scared of the draws. But he's betting small. When people bet small with a drawy board, it usually means that they have the draw and they're trying to get to a cheap river card. We chop most king X. Yeah, exactly, and that as well. If he does have a king with like an 8 or 9 kicker, you split against those. That's right. Another good reason to call river. Yeah, like you played this hand really well, Chris. Really, really well. Yeah, okay, so you can actually do 3 things here. You can limp, you can raise small, or you can just shove. There's benefits to all 3, and there's disadvantages, right? So the benefit to shoving is that you know that it's always going to be plus EV, no matter what. Even if the guy is super loose, or super tight, or a regular, or an unknown, shoving Queen Jack, blind versus blind, for 12 big blinds is always going to win you money. So that's like the base level of profit you can make here by shoving all in. Now, do you decide to do anything else? It depends on if you think you can make more value by doing something else, right? It's got to be more than shoving. So you need to be able to exploit your opponent by taking a different line. And how you can do that is depending on your read on the big blind, and you need a read. So if he's really tight, really tight, I'd say, yeah, you can use this line here and just min raise and then fold if he goes all in, because he's not really going to defend his big blind at all. And what you should be doing is min raising any 2 cards if he's really tight, and just folding to an all in and giving up if he calls, unless you hit something. Anyway, the more preferable option that I would take against unknown players is to limp stab. So you limp the 75 chips and just bet flops, because they're really passive. They're going to call these small bets a lot, and by limping, you keep the pot small out of position, and your hand's good, like you want to see a flop. But those kind of players are going to make a lot of post-flop mistakes, and if you can play small pots against them post-flop, you should be able to get more value by just playing with Queen Jack against them on flops. Yeah, but if you don't know, or it's a regular, and you're not sure, just shoving all in's always going to make you money. Center hand. Alright, thanks Forsana. I've got your game, Yabio, and I've got Forsana's. Thanks guys. Balance reviews, Kappa. Of course, you need to know what to do in every situation. There's no Kappa there. It should be Balance Reviews PogChamp. I'm giving you all scenarios. Because I don't have stats. I don't know what the correct play in this situation is. Because I don't know if the guy's loose or tight. So I'm telling you what to do in every scenario. We'll raise King Queen. That's seems fine to me. I really don't like c-betting here. Yeah, it's two opponents. They're likely to call you even with ace high because they have a gut shot. So yeah, I'd like just checking it down. 500 though. Finish my tea now. Like, it's the big stack. Is he full of shit here? Like, you're getting 5 to 1. You only need to be right 16% to make this good. I really do think that he can be bluffing that often. So I'm tempted, really tempted to call 500. Will Nix, I think he got away with a cheap bluff there. Kind of want to raise the river. I don't like raising. I think you beat all of his bluffs anyway. I don't think he's going to be doing this with ace high. Because if he has ace high, he should believe that he has the best hand. He doesn't need to bet. And the way that we've been playing, I think he's not going to bet here with ace high. The only reason to raise is if you think he has ace high and he can fold it. I guess he might have a 3 or a 5 and play it like this. You could raise here. You could raise, Chris. It's pretty ballsy. You know, by raising, you'd have to invest half your chips. So, it's risky. I don't know if I would... I don't know if I would feel comfortable raising, even though I can see the merit in raising, you know, because you're trying to get him to fold a 3 or a 5 and ace high, if maybe he has ace high. But I kind of feel like just calling the 500, you're going to win often enough. Yeah, but you do have to worry about this guy behind you, but this guy has nothing as well. He's just checked twice, so I'm not really that worried about him. It's a tough spot. I think it's a pretty tough spot. Same one as well. Alright, Merkelin. Check yours out. It's a tough spot, Chris. I think you can bluff raise. I think whether you raise it, it's sometimes a question of style. And I don't really use that word very often, talking about poker. Because, like, in my opinion, there's usually only a few correct plays, or that you can justify. And, like, style is just a thing that people say to justify their bad play. You know? Like, someone saying that, oh, I'm just gonna check raise a lot. It's just them, and that's just my style. That's just them trying to justify bad spewy lines, you know? So, I don't really use that word very often. But I do think that raising that river, like, there is some style. Where's the hand? Here we go. So there is, jeez, I think two profitable lines here on the river, right? There's two profitable lines. You can call the 500 and win against other king highs, queen highs, jack highs, 10 highs that are just trying to bluff for cheap, like the 6, 7, hands like that, jack 10, that he's just trying to steal the pot cheaply. But raising, I think, is also profitable, and you're going to get him to fold the 3 and a 5, probably, and ace highs, which he could also do this with, but it's more risky, so it needs to work way more often. But both of them should be profitable. It's just a question of, like, are you willing to risk half your chips here on a raise? And if you are wrong and he has a 2, or an 8, like he's not going to bet fold an 8 either. You are going to be left with 10 big blinds. But if you just call and he has a 2 and he has a 3, like you only lose 500 chips, so you still have 4,900, 4,800. So I think both are good, but like this is the one rare occasion where I do think style kind of comes into it, and you get those players that like taking the more risky, aggressive lines because they think they can push their opponents around and make some profit. And I agree, in this spot you can definitely raise and make money, but I'm the low risk kind of player. I really don't like taking like high risk, high reward plays in low stakes games where, you know, people just hate folding. So yeah, that's my opinion on that spot. Interesting though, really cool hand. Losing style. I'll check out your game as well, Merkelin. It's in the queue. So I would definitely push this one. For this guy's pushing 2 big blinds, you're well ahead of him. You only have 15. So it's 16, whatever. So you can open shove this for like 12 big blinds. So when you have this 2 big blind stack all in already, it kind of juices up the pot for you and means that you can now just shove all in here with ace 8 and hope to isolate the short stack. There are a bunch of people behind you, but they should be very tight against like all in. Yeah, so I mean, what you would always shove ace 10 suited. So I think ace 8 I would shove here as well. We're just well ahead of this guy. And the blinds are big enough that you can risk 15 big blinds to try and win 2 plus 1.5 plus the antes. That's 3, 4. So you're risking 15 big blinds to win 4. That's enormous. That's a quarter of your chips right there. The only awkward thing is that you're in early position. But I think the hand is strong enough that you can still shove in early position. Like if you're on the button there with ace 8 suited and everyone folded, it would be an easy all in because there's only two people behind you. But it's only awkward here because you've still got 7 people behind you. Yeah, just push all in. Great. Free money right there. Yeah, I'd call the 150, see a flop, suited hand. Good odds. So I'd fold against really aggressive players, but I find myself raising this much more these days than I used to, because people just don't defend wide enough. So I'm like raising most suited combinations on the button into unknown players. Not into regulars though, because they know how to repush. This should be a call. 5 big blinds. Yep, great call. I love it. Well done. Wee, kings. Oh, more kings. Alright, so you're just shoving all in. I would min raise with your 12 big blinds, 13 big blinds, just to give someone the opportunity to make a big mistake and reshove all in with a weak hand, or call and see a flop. Like kings, I know sometimes it really sucks when you raise small and someone just flat calls and there's an ace on the flop, but it's not the end of the world. And you can still play that hand, and how you play it is you just check back on the flop, right? You play it a little bit tricky. So yeah, I would min-raise and try and get a bit more value. Because shoving, you just have too much fold equity with your stack. This is going to happen a lot, everyone just folds. Glad you agree, Chris. I'm always unsure how to defend in the blinds. It's tough, Merkelin. I'm practicing that as well. I think when I spoke to Sandman Ness last week, he really opened my eyes to just playing more hands, getting odds. Especially against weak players, you know. Against strong players, often you just have to take your medicine and your punishment and fold, because playing out of position against really good players, you're not going to get a lot of value in those spots, and often you just end up getting owned, because not only do they have the advantage of being in position against you when you're playing your big blind, but they know how to barrel, and they know exactly, you know, they can hand read better, so it's easier for them to bluff you off by the river. So if you're playing out of position against weaker players, very often they just play their hand, and you can take it away from them, or even out of position, you can call them down, and they're not going to, you know, make spewy, crazy bluffs. But against good, solid players, when they're playing in position, you are going to see 3-barrel bluffs, and like, it's very hard for you to check call down 3 streets with like third pair. Sometimes you have to, but like that's why it's really tough playing out of position against good players. But so what you'd probably want to do if you're out of position against good players is just 3-bet bluff. That's why there's an aggressive metagame between regulars, because playing out of position, like sometimes it's fine, but it's often easier to just 3-bet and get them to fold, because no one, especially in mid stakes, they don't really defend 3-bets wide enough. They're probably just going to fold. Yeah, so yeah, I mix it up. You have to mix it up though. You have to, against regulars, call sometimes with more playable hands and be prepared to check call down a bit light. And sometimes you got to 3-bet, and sometimes you have to fold and take your medicine. That's, yeah, it just sucks playing against good players. I think I may have mentally decided that since I just doubled, it might look spewy to shove the very next hand. Nah, I don't think it. No, I don't think it looks spewy at all, Chris. If anything, in my opinion, that looks stronger, because most people, when they double up, they're happy with it, and they're not going to go and spew off next hand and look for another double. So if I was really concentrating and someone just doubled up and then shoved next hand, to me that doesn't look weak. That looks just normal or strong. But what you might find is if someone loses a lot of chips and then shoves next hand, that's the situation when they could be tilting, so they could be really loose. But not when you gain chips. But no one's thinking about that anyway. They're not watching the game, they're just playing their hand. So I wouldn't even worry about that. Is there a tendency how to defend wide versus tight ones and tight versus loose ones? That's the wrong way to do it. You need to defend loose versus loose players and tight versus tight players. In micros, there are rare situations to defend with enough big blinds left to 3-bet as a blind defense. Yeah, so you just call usually. If you're really short, well, or you can just shovel in. So when you have less than 20 big blinds, there's 2 things you can do. You can shovel in against a raise if you're out of position, because there's enough money out there. Let's say that the blinds 1, small blind is a half, they raised a min raise 2, that's 3.5, plus the antes 4, and you have 20. So the risk reward ratio is 20% if you just shovel in, because there's 20% of your chips out there. That's good enough. That's like a base, solid, good risk reward ratio to try and win that pot without a showdown. So that's step 1, just shovel in. If you don't think that's the best play, like maybe he's going to raise call you too loose, or he's a really tight player and you just think he has a value range, but you have a nice hand, you want to see a flop, just call and see a flop. You can call him in raise. Yeah, but sometimes if you're really short, like 10 big blinds, you just have to fold. But there are other things you can do, you know, that you can stop and go. I love the stop and go. If you have 8 big blinds and the button raises, and you have Queen Jack suited, perfect spot to stop and go, because if you push pre-flop, they're going to call you 100%, because you have 8 big blinds, you're short, they're committed. But with Queen Jack, you want a bit more fold equity, and it's a nice hand, like you're probably ahead of his range, so you just stop and go. You call, the pot will be 5 big blinds, you've got 7 left. If you don't flop a pair, like if it's all low cards, you just shove with 2 overcards, and you're going to get him to fold ace highs and king highs. If you flop like a top pair, well, you don't have to shove, you can just check and trap. Like if you flop the nuts, you're not going to just shovel in, you can check. But the plan is to shove with like draws and overcards, stop and go. But I guess you can check and fold on really, really bad flops. But with Queen Jack, you're never going to get a bad flop. Like a flop that you can't stop and go. Because even Ace, King, something, you're going to have a gut shot. And you might get him to fold like small pocket pairs if it's Ace, King, X and you just shovel in. So yeah, so that's why stop and go with Queen Jack, Jack 10, Queen 10, King 10, King Jack, 10 9, 8 9, 8 7, those kind of hands is really powerful to stop and go. Because you never have a bad flop that you can't just push all in. And there's a lot of flops that they're going to be scared of. So can't forget that play. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there. Stop and go. It's fun. It's kind of a perfect example of just having to take your medicine and fold. Like there's a guy with a lot of chips min-raising. You might have the best hand with ace 4. You're getting really good odds, but you have less than 10 big blinds. So calling 800 chips, he's raising early positions. So like if you're wrong and he can have you dominated. He can have ace 8, ace 10. So you can have 8s, 9s. There's a bunch of hands that beat you. So you kind of just have to take your medicine here and fold. But if he was raising the button or the cutoff, I would definitely not be folding, because his range then is much, much wider. Yeah, so it's just a shitty situation. But if we had 20 big blinds, like I think I would call there, getting 4 to 1. I never used to do that with weak aces, but I think my eyes have been opened very recently to defending wide. It's hard to hit pairs in Hold'em, guys. Great shove, Chris. Beautiful, I love it. 9-8 suited, 9 big blinds, early position. One of the worst hands you should shove, but I'm glad to see you doing that. There should be an any 2 cards push, unless the guy's a regular. So against unknowns, you can just shove any 2, and they're never going to call wide enough. I'll do Nash on this, just to show you, because it's really, really, really important that you guys know how loose they have to call you for this to be non-any 2 cards. What the fuck? Oh, that's my hand history. That's why I can't find it. It's this one here. Okay, here we go. So I'm opening up all the resources. So my guess is he has to be calling with, I'm going to say 40% for this to be bad. That's chip EV, because we're not on the final table. All chip EV. It's doing the calculation. So this is Nash. Can you guys see this? Yeah. So the Nash range is 67.7 and he's calling 48. But, I mean, how often do you see random players in $3 rebuys call 10 big blinds with Queen 6 off, Queen 8 off, King 2 off, Queen 2 suited? I've never seen that. Even from regs, they don't call, like, correctly. So, you can change his range to a more reasonable range for a random player. It's any pair, any Broadway. probably the king 8. People don't like folding that for 10 big blinds. Like, this seems pretty reasonable. We could probably add jack 10. But sometimes they just fold those hands. Like, I would fold jack 10 here against an unknown. But not against a reg. Remember, this is chip EV. So against 31, you definitely snap shove it any 2 cards. It's profitable. Let's do the plot. Plot. I think it's range versus player equities. No, that's not it. Oh wait, is this it? That's not gonna help me. No, I need the other plot. Range versus best response. Okay, here we go. So, range, the red one is, wait. This dark red is the big blind calling against the small blind. So, the small blind is this is equities, right? Okay, response range. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing with this graph. Man, the sit and go wizard graph is way better. It's just really simple. EV difference. This one seems like way too complicated. Plot. Frequency calls against okay, yeah, so I think this is the most relevant graph. So this is the red is the calling frequency of the big blind. So if the big blind is calling too tight, they're losing money. And then at this point, 30%, it's break even against the small blind range that we put in there, which is Nash. And then if you're calling more than between 30 to 70, you're making money against that range. And the small blind's losing money. And then if you're calling more than 70, you start losing money again because you're calling too wide against the tight range and the small blind makes money. So you in the small blind, well, that's the big blind. So I think it's this point here, 30%. I don't know, I think the sit and go wizard graph is way better because it's just a very simple graph and it puts like small blind push range, big blind call range, and then you can see when where they intersect, and that's the break even point. This one's, I don't know, it's confusing me. I need someone to teach me how to use it correctly. But I think that this is the most relevant one. So it should be so if we put this at like 29, then we should start seeing some hands being folds. Not yet. Oh wait, no, that doesn't make sense. If we put it above 30, sorry, because 30 was break even, so it's gonna be like 31. Be like 37. Let's see. Yeah, it's like break even there. I don't know. You get the idea. I have to figure out this graph thing. I haven't used the graph function on this very much. But the idea is you got to push any 2 cards here with chip EV. Maybe I'll use this one. Plot. Range versus best response. That's what the one I just did, right? So this graph is simulating like a leveling war. It's saying like you have to respond to your opponent playing like Nash and then they respond back, and yeah, I can't really interpret that very well. Alright, whatever. The easiest way to do these calculations is to just put in the edited range what you think the big blind's actually going to call, and then see what you shove. And basically most people are going to be tied here, because unknowns never call king 2 off. Even against like a loose-ish range, king 2 suited, you still shove any 2 cards. So yeah, just push. Just push it, you're making money. ATC less versus reg will call unique correct. Exactly right, that's it. And most regs don't even call correctly. So you can probably just shove any 2 cards against everyone. So I've never even seen a regular call there with like king 3. Chip EV. Yep, seems good. I like this push, cut off, ace. Pretty standard. Ace queen. Whoa, whoa. 3 all-ins. This is pretty gross. All in, another short stack all in, and the big stack. This is so gross. You actually can't calculate this as well because there's too many all-ins. There's yeah, there's like too many ranges and the calculation will break down. So yeah, this is the only hand I remember. It's tough. So you only need 28% to break even in chips. I think the best way to do this is to just get out a chip Equilab calculator, just do chip EV and put in some ranges, what you think these guys have. Because they are short, like this guy's really short, he can probably push 50% of his hands minimum. This guy's also short, so he's probably pushing most aces and pairs and good broadways. This guy has the tightest range, but it all depends on what do you think he does with ace-jack, ace-10. And I really think that he's not folding ace-jack here against 2 short stacks. So you're getting odds, and because you can easily dominate like 2 of these guys, I think your equity will be good enough, but we'll find out. You need 28% to break even. But you also got to remember that if you do win this, and you have a huge stack, there's more future EV, because you have a lot of chips to work with. So I would, if it's close, be happy with calling, basically, in a 180 structure where all the money's up top. Let's put in some equities. First guy will put 50%. It might be a little off, but like it might be too loose, close enough. We can play around with it a little bit. Okay, second guy. You guys see this? Okay, second guy. He's the 5 big blind, so he's probably not folding many aces, I would say. We'll go any suited ace. I think we'll go any pair. We'll go those aces. Is he pushing any ace? Probably not. I think we'll just stick down to like ace. Well, the funny thing about this is that these hands are probably better than Ace-6 in this spot, because you can make straights. Although Ace-6 does dominate more hands that our opponent with a loose range will have. So whatever, we'll just give him any ace. Alright, we'll give him any ace, and this is the big stack. Now his range is tighter because there's already 2 all-ins before him. But I really don't think anyone's folding ace-jack here. He's probably not folding 8s either. What about 7s? I don't think he's folding 7s, so... What about king, queen suited? People love king, queen suited, so I'll give him like ace-10 as well. That looks okay. It might be a little loose, but we're being a bit aggressive. And what do we have? Ace, queen suited. Like, you should have enough equity here. Yeah, so you have 28. You can't see this. You have 28. The 2 shorties have 20. The big stack has 30 with his range of 7s and ace-10. And you need 28. So, you know, it's basically break even. But like I said, because I think there's more value in gaining a big chip lead here, I would lean towards calling. But if the small blind is a tight player, let's say the small blind is not going with 7s or ace-10, I think it becomes a fold. Where's my thing gone? That didn't work. Oh no, that's right. It's still close. So if the small blind is folding ace-10, it's 27.4, but it's very close to the correct equity. I think I would go with it with ace-queen, but ace-jack seems like a pretty clear fold, but we'll see. What about ace-jack? Yeah, ace-jack just tanks your equity. It goes down to 23. So ace-jack here is a pretty clear fold, but I like ace-queen. What about, I think the pairs like 9s should be much better than ace-queen. It's slightly better than ace-queen because, you know, you dominate more hands from the shorties as well. So it looks like 9s plus ace-queen, and like ace-king should be more than enough here. Yeah, ace-king's definitely enough. Just because it's chip EV. So yeah, I think the correct range here is 9s and ace-queen. Poker strategy. Yeah, of course, it's Equilab. It's awesome. Good free program. Ace-queen off? Good question. Ah, shit, I lost it. You can probably justify... Yeah, it's probably a marginal fold, Chris. Because we looked at ace-queen suited against this a tight small blind, and it was slightly less equity. It was 0.5% less. So with ace-queen off, I think you can justify folding. But if the small blind's a loose player, I don't think you can ever fold ace-queen. Because a loose player might just spaz out here with king-jack or ace-10, ace-8, ace-9, 4s, probably not 4s, but 6s. So, yeah. Yeah, ace-queen off is probably the closest hand in this situation, but ace-queen suited I think you can justify always going with. I'm glad I put the king-queen suited in his range. Button? Nah, I'm not worried about the button. The button is short as well. Wow, I mean look at these ranges. I'm more worried about the small blind. Nah, the small blind's not folding ace-queen here, Dark Founder. He's not folding ace-jack either. As we can see, we put king-queen suited in his range, and that's what he had. So, these hands though, king-2 suited, holy shit, look at this. This is nuts. 5-4 off, 5 big blinds. Like, if we put these ranges in, into Equilab, Ace Jack's a snap call. But this is, I think, very rare to get guys shoving 5 big blinds with 5-4 off and calling King 2 suited. Like, that's pretty crazy. Like, we'll put cutoff at 70. 5-4's not even in that range. King 2 suited this guy had. King 2 suited. Whatever, we'll give him that. That's nuts. We'll give this guy just the Ace 10, King Queen. We'll give him King Jack as well. Why not? We have Ace Jack. Wow. It still tanks Ace Jack. I guess just because there's too many live cards. But Ace Queen? Wow, even Ace Queen off, it's like not that great anymore. It looks like this spot, the wider these guys are, the worse it is for you to call Ace Jack. It's a very static call range, just because of the way that the equities work. It's hard for you to completely dominate like all opponents. They're always going to have some kind of piece, you know, some kind of chance. So it's a very static call range here, even against much looser ranges over here. It's mainly to do with the small blind, this hand. I mean, if these guys are really tight, then you can probably justify folding Ace Queen. Ace Queen off, because you're not going to dominate as much of the button range. But yeah, it feels like against random players, Ace Queen suited, pocket nines. King Queen suited, it's really marginal, Dark Fan. I don't think it's bad. It depends on the opponents. Against loose players, King Queen suited here is definitely an all-in, but against tight players, it's, you know, it's not going to be great. Yeah, Ace Queen suited gets a little worse. It is weird. It's just because when their ranges get wider, they have more live cards, and you don't have a paired hand, so, you know, that just makes it worse for you. But if you have like nines here, and their ranges get wider, nines will become a better call. So if I give you nines, yeah, nines becomes much better. What was it before? Like 28? I think it was 28. Anyway, yeah, it's a cool spot, but you know, with 3 all-ins, you're always going to be tight, basically. The question is like, do you call Ace Queen off? Ace Jack's always a fold here. The less hands you dominate, less straight blockers. Exactly, yeah. Just more live cards, worse for you. It's a fun hand. I think the call is good though, in conclusion. I like the 2s there with a lot of chips, putting the pressure on. Alright, we'll fold 10-4. Well, that makes our decision easy, but you would not be c-betting this against 2 opponents. Good fold. King 7, yeah, we can fold. The big blind's pretty short. 6-8. Okay, it's 9-handed now, so you don't want to go too loose in early position with 8 people behind you. What is this? Super net, Chris. Chris the super net. Just jam it in. Look how short they are. Like, Jack 8's definitely profitable here, even against like standard call ranges. Even if they're calling normally, the odds are good enough. There's already 3,600 chips out there. The big blind only has 4,000, so you're almost getting 2 to 1 against the big blind. But when you have Jack 8, he's gonna fold often enough that you don't care if he calls you with like Queen 9 and you you have live cards, you're almost getting 2 to 1 anyway. So like you get enough folds here to shove Jack 8. I would shove not too many worse offsuit jacks than this, but definitely a lot of suited cards. A lot of suited cards. Yeah, but like weak offsuit jacks, like Jack 6 off, I'd probably just fold that hand. But I'll definitely Jack 8 I think is the bottom of my weak offsuit Jack range. Welcome back, Merklin. We're still doing the review for Chris. Got a call here, getting 3 to 1. Dominated. Doesn't matter though. Yeah, I think this is good. Yeah, now that we have 12, 13 big blinds, you really don't want to raise fold against gonna win and against the big blind. So I like shoving here with the king queen, trying to get that maximum fold equity, win the blinds. People are going to try and 3-bet you if you min raise, and you can't just trap. You can't trap there with king queen. So I never used to do this, but I do see merits now in calling these spots and just seeing flops. It's a little awkward because of your stack size being close to 10 big blinds, but if you do flop a piece, your line is to just check shovel in. The pot will be enormous, and you know, this guy's probably on a wide range given that he's a big stack, so you don't have to be too scared. If you flop top pair or like medium pair on a dry board, you can just check shove. Definitely with some kind of straight draw, flush draw, but you don't have to do that, I guess. Yeah, good all in. He seems really nitty. The guy has 12,000 chips, so that's 6 big blinds. I think ace 10 is definitely an all in against his 6 big blinds. Dodged a bullet though. It's also pretty nitty. I mean, in chip EV, I think you can just shove this, even though it's a bit of an overshove. We're talking chip EVs, so you should just be able to shove any ace for this chip stack in the cutoff. 3x open looks weird. Yeah, I know, it does look weird, but I wouldn't take any notice of it. I've seen people do that with a lot of weird things, but it does depend on his stats, I guess. But ace 10 is just crushing so much that I really can't fold against a random player 3xing in a low stakes 180. Are we? I think shove is barely plus GPV, if at all, with ace 3 off. Well, yeah, if you don't shove, I kind of like raising and just raise, call the small blind and raise fold to the other two. But if the big blind's really aggressive, it might be better just to fold if it's not plus EV to push. But I really think it's plus EV to push this, and I'll look it up. So chip EV, cut off, ace 3 off. Oh wow, okay, I'm way off in Nash, but that's Nash. People aren't calling Nash. What's big blind calling? I mean, it's going to be an overshove, so he's like, this says big blind is calling king 10. No fucking way. Like, it's an overshove for a lot of big blinds. He might call ace 8, but there's no way he's calling any, like, king queen off here. 2s? No way, not for that many big blinds. He might call 5s. He's not calling those. No way he's calling ace 2 for 15 big blinds. So, I think big blind range is this. Like, maybe you can add these, but it's a big shove. Small blind range. This is the guy who's short. We'll just keep it like that for now. Because if we just change the big blind range, Ace-3 becomes a good plus EV shove. You guys see that? Yeah, Ace-3 off is plus 0.28. Yeah. Even with the cutoff, 10 big blinds calling us with Ace-4. Like, this is what the cutoff range is. There's no way he's calling this for 10 big blinds. Like, when we overbet jam and he's got 9 big blinds, he's not calling Ace-4. He's probably calling similar kind of range to the big blind. Probably tighter, actually, like 7s. Maybe that? Like, I think that's still too loose. And then we can overbet shove any suited king. Pretty crazy. Chip EV is a strange thing. It's going to highly depend on the big blind. But I rarely see big blinds calling here for 25 big blinds with King 10, you know, it never happens. So, I think you can shove here. I'm actually surprised at how wide you can shove, but it looks like, you know, you can be shoving pretty wide. Considering we're relatively deep, how are we adjusting our ranges to dollar EV? I wouldn't adjust at all until you hit final table, Chris. Because who cares if you know, min cash. You just want to try and play for the top 3. So I'm using chip EV until final table. Now, of course, there are some situations where you have to think about future dollar EV. Like, let's say that you have 60,000 here. You're not going to want to just shove 60,000 because it's a really nice stack. You're probably top 2, and this guy's a chip leader. So you're just going to min raise. Of course, you're not going to shove 30 big blinds. But in this situation where, like, if you raise, it's very easy to just get exploited. But I do think, you know, you can win chips here by shoving. It's 4,600 out there. Till final table, not until the bubble. Well, you had to think about ICM slightly on the bubble. But you shouldn't be thinking about just min cashing. So what I mean by that is that let's say that on the bubble you're one of the short stacks and there's another really short stack around. You can fold to try and make the money if you're a short stack and like there's other short stacks around. But like, you're not going to fold a massively plus EV spot on the bubble just to try and min cash. Like, you want to play for that top 3 spots. And even when you're in the money, there are small pay jumps until the final table, and like final 9 on the final table. But you just want that top 3, so you should just be playing chip EV until you hit final table. Unless there's a really weird situation on the exact bubble where you're one of those short stacks and you can think you can try and just make your money back by folding a little bit. Yeah, so just chip EV until final table. Yeah, so shove here. I'm actually surprised at how wide you can shove, but it makes sense, you know, against your shove of 15 big blinds, no one's calling you with much wider than this, you know. So if we put his range at this, which I think is fairly accurate, you can push cutoff here with a lot. Any ace, any pair, a lot of high suited cards. Like, look how good 9-7 suited here. That's insane. I would never thought that, but looks like I'm gonna be loosening up my chip EV plays. Yep, I think it's fine. We've got 10 big blinds, but the plan here is to stop and go, or just check get it in with a good hand. But yeah, this is a pretty bad board, so we don't hit anything, you know, no straight draws, no flush draws, no pairs, nothing. So I'll just check fold this. I like that, but you know, you can stop and go because you have one pot size bet left or a little over one pot size bet. You can just shove here with draws and second pair kind of hands. You just shove all in. Okay, fold that. I mean, if they're tight, it's definitely a push. But I do think if the big blind is... If one of them is loose, I think it's okay to fold this, but, you know, less than 10 big blinds on the button. You gotta be pretty aggressive there. This one's definitely an all-in. Well done. Snap call. GG. Well played. Nice raise. That's a good flop. How come my chat isn't seen? I can see your chat. Complex Koala. Hopefully you guys can see it on the screen. Good fold. You can consider shoving here. Because it's not a very good raise call against these guys. Like, you have to raise fold, but they might try and shove light because they think you're stealing a lot. These middle pairs, you know, it's a rare occasion where you can overbet shove a little bit because your hot and cold equity is good. So by hot and cold equity, I mean like your equity pre-flop is it's pretty strong even against decent core ranges. Like, you're often going to be flipping or you know, slightly, yeah, like your hot and cold equity is good, but if you see flops, your equity can tank if you have bad flops. So medium pairs, you often just want to overbet shove them in some spots where you can put a lot of pressure on, and this is a good example because it's like 15 big blinds effective, but the antes are quite big, and this guy is really not going to call you loose at all. He's probably folding here with nines. I think he folds here with nines. So I want to just put max pressure on and just shove these eights and not have to min raise and let the two guys with more than 10 big blinds reshove all in. This software is called Universal Replayer. Complex Koala. Yeah, so I think I just shove here rather than min raise. But if this guy here, Mathon and Phil Holder, if they're both very tight players, I like the min raise because you know that when they shovel in, they're not going to be messing around. They just have a hand. Yeah, because you have a decent amount of chips here, I would not be folding ace-10 off. Also, because it's only 8-handed, not 9-handed, you can afford to raise that. I prefer open and fold. Is it a bad play? It's not a bad play, Dark Vander. But what happens when you do that is if the button and this guy with 10 big blinds, if these guys are loose players, they might look at your min raise as a steal, and they can reshove here with some hands that they would just fold to an all-in. Sixes, fives, ace-10 suited, ace-9 suited, king-queen suited, king-jack suited. Those kind of hands, they're very tempted to push all in against you because they think that you're trying to steal. But if you shove all in, they're going to fold all of those hands. So you have a lot more fold equity, and you just prevent yourself from having to raise fold eights. I mean, you don't want to raise call eights for 50,000. It's just, you don't want to take that kind of big risk for most of your chips when you can just get the guy to fold. by shoving all in with this. It's a very rare spot with medium pairs. Like, I would not do this with many hands, but you can actually think about also doing it with king, queen suited, king, jack suited, king, 10 suited, queen, jack suited, like suited broadways. You can try and put pressure on them and just shove all in, because those hands also are going to play decently well against their core ranges. But yeah, there aren't many hands that I would just shovel in, but pairs, I think, qualify, like low, medium pairs. Pretty rare to have legit bad players when looking at decent players, Henry C. It's all about optimization. Exactly. This is plus EV, min raising, and shoving is also plus EV. You have to just think what is best for the situation. Yeah, so I think like shoving is going to be best for most situations, but min raising is good sometimes as well. Okay, so I'd raise the ace 10, talked about that. You got a call, even though he could definitely have 2 pair or a straight. Odds are way too good. Nice hand. Where are we? Default play, just push all in. Because you're going to put a lot of pressure on this guy. It's close to the final table. And, you know, he's not going to call you light at all. It's definitely plus EV to push. But if he is exploitable post-flop, you can try and play post-flop by limp stabbing if he's not aggressive, if he's just passive. And if he's a super nit, just min raise. And min raise any 2 cards. But you don't want to min raise against loose players, because they're going to push pre-flop, or they're going to call and see flops, and then you kind of just give up equity. Yay, ace king. We'll fold against the short stack. So this is final table. Why did you lost the limp stab? No one was using it, Merkelin. I think this one's more popular at the moment. No, it wasn't copyright. I just changed it for this one. So 2 options here. You can check it back and call turn with your medium pair, or you can just bet now and prevent, you know, bad cards from coming and you don't know what to do. You give up the betting lead. I talked about a similar situation earlier where I had 7s on a board like this. I like betting because with a hand like 5s, there are a lot more overcards that can come on the turn that might hit your opponent, and you're happy if he just folds now with all those cards. Yeah, and it's also going to make it harder for you to call down because there's more scary cards. If you have a pair here like 9s, I'm much happier checking back because, you know, there are less cards that you're scared of. Right now, you're also scared of like a 7 and an 8. Although a 7's not too bad because you have a gut shot, but an 8, a 9. But if you have 9s, all of a sudden those cards aren't scary anymore. You can call easier. So I like the bet. And I don't think that he's going to bluff that much. So now that you get called, you check here and see a river card. And you see what he does. You're usually just folding. Unless he bets really small, you might call. So it's quite a big bet. We'll just give it up. I would fold. I really... I mean, his line doesn't make sense. I saw the results, so he had a 4. Like, it doesn't make sense, but I don't think it's worth 25,000 chips. To me, it's a bit of a guess. He could easily have a backdoor flush or some kind of king or a 2 pair. He could have a set. It's ballsy to call this, I think. And like the odds aren't even good, so I would prefer not to risk this. But, you know, I understand the call because his line really doesn't make sense, so you owned him in that spot. Limb stab is good, but once you teach, nobody uses the emote. Yeah, no one was using the emote. I like the burning money, the cash. I can't put him on 10x. It looks like he's very polarized. He is polarized, you're right. Yeah, so he either has like a 2-pair or a flush, or he has nothing. I understand the call, Chris, I do. I just don't find enough people bluffing in this spot against me to call this sizing. So yeah, I mean, the 2 does complete some straight draws that he had on the flop. 5-6, ace-5, both of them get there. So you know, there are some hands that he can have here for pure value. Yeah, so I'm not a big fan. I would rather not risk these 25,000 and losing and giving this guy the chip lead. I'd rather just fold. But it's a close call, no matter what. I'm not gonna say it's bad because I think it's fine. I'm just not a big fan of it. So big. He's just polarized. He can have a bluff, but he can also have the nuts. He can have flushes, straights. There's heaps in his range that crushes us. So this is the strange part. He check called 3-4-10 rainbow. So this is where the hand, his story starts to unravel. He checks turn and then he bets big on the river. But because he called 3-4-10 rainbow, what hands would call that flop that is going to be really happy with that rundown? He needs to have backdoored a flush or have 5-6 or ace-5 on the flop. Those hands make sense. 5-6, ace-5. Like if he has a 10, he wouldn't bet like this. So a 10 doesn't make sense. But he can have 4-10, 2 pairs. He can have king-10. That would make sense. A set of 4s or a set of 3s would make sense. Even a set of 10s he might have and play like this. So there are definitely value hands, but there are also bluffs. He could have 5-7 or like ace high that he's turning into a bluff, like ace-8, ace-9. He might just turn it into a bluff now. So there are bluffing hands, but I think it's a bit too speculative for me. I think owning 2 of the 5s is a huge call there. Actually, that's a very good point, Chris, because you block the straights that I think make up a pretty big part of his flop check call range that has value. That's a very good point, actually. Yeah, because we block 5-6 and ace-5. That's really, really clever, Chris. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you might have changed my mind just with that one statement. Because I'm, like, on the flop, the draws that you're worried about are ace-5 and 5-6 that have a straight now. But you block both of those hands quite heavily. So yeah, I think that's really, really good. Yeah, this is the one point as well. Cantoneo AA. People really don't like, you know, bluffing too much on final tables, so he's unlikely to play 5-6 off, that's true. But there are certainly some other hands that he might have backdoored. And King 10 is still a possibility, 2-pair King 10. He could still have 4-2, 3-4, you know, 10-4, all those are possible, because he just call him in raise, remember? The sizing is a big part. Why would you bet so big with a flush? Because he wants value. I think that he can definitely have a flush here. Yeah, it's okay to run complex. It's all good. King 10. Yeah, I think King 10 is... or a backdoor flush, but it's hard to backdoor flushes. Jay Longo told me to... Ah, cool. Thank you. Glad you like the stream, Brian. Brian TK Apono, welcome. Jay Longo, my bro. Anyway, yeah, so... Really good point, Chris. Because we have 2 blockers to 5, 6, and ace 5, it makes you more likely to call here with 5s and less likely to call with 8s. That's a really, really good point. I think you convinced me, Chris. High level stuff there. Let's move on. Check. Alright. I call, man, it's 5,000. You're getting 7 to 1. I think he has like a jack with a diamond. The jack of diamonds, often enough. Does he have just the naked jack of diamonds 1 out of 8 times? I think so. I think you can call here getting for 5,000, you know, it's only 5,000. Remember, final table of a 3 rebuy. This is what this is, guys. Knit. Any 2, Chris, please. Look at this spot. It's so juicy for you. This guy's short, big blind. This guy's short, 46,000. This guy's got 29,000. This guy's 47. There's so many short stacks. This is 100% any 2 card shove, even against a regular. Because, you know, they're starting to think about now the payout jumps. So, please, shove any 2 cards. Okay. Jam, exactly, yeah. But I like folding bottom 5%. No, not in this spot, please. Not in this spot. We saw how wide they need to call for that to be bad. They're not calling anywhere close to wide enough. There are some occasions where folding bottom 5% is okay. But I would only do that against a regular for future game so that he knows that you're not pushing any 2 cards next time you play against him, or because you have a read that the guy's a sputard. Otherwise, please push any 2. Yeah, he is. He really can't call wide at all. He's fucked. I hate these spots. I always level myself. Like, the guy with 10 big blinds is min-raised in the cutoff. This looks like the nuts. I always level myself into folding in these spots. But time and time again, I see people do this with junk. So, I think I would fold 5s because even if he does have the weak part of his range, 5 still doesn't play that great. Like, if he just pushed all in, 5s would be very marginal to rejam. Probably would be a rejam, but it's like the worst hand you could do it with. So now that I think the min raise actually might be the stronger part of his range, there's a chance that it's the stronger part, I would not go all in here with 5s. I would just fold. But I'm wrong again. This guy's just spazzing out. My loose rule of thumb is if I'm calling a shove, I'm jamming his min. That's usually my rule, Chris. Although you have to be really careful with that because, you know, sometimes people only do that with traps and you just fuck yourself with the bottom of your range. So it would depend on the opponent. In that situation, I would look at his stats. If he's a loose player, just jam it in. If he's a tight player, I would definitely fold because a tight player is probably trapping you in that spot. But I like that rule. Wow, he has 280,000. Okay, that's a lot of chips. Perfect example of what I was saying earlier. 8 is a much better hand to check back here because there's less cards that we're scared of on the turn and we can easily call. But if we have 5s, I think you're more happy just to bet and take it down now. So I would check the 8s. There's no value in here. He's not really going to call you with a 4 or 2. So yeah, just check. Well played by both players. Alright. Yeah, I would try the limp stab if he's a weak player, but if he's aggressive, it's definitely not a good spot to put chips in with Queen 5 because he's going to raise you a lot. Look at the chip situation. He's the chip leader, you're in second place, so the correct play for him if you limp is to like raise any 2 cards. So yeah, but if he's a passive weak player, you can get away with the limp stab here. If you're a villain, aren't you 3-bet getting it in with 10s? Yes, I am. Sorry. When I said well played, I mean post-flop. Yeah, I'm just 3-betting pre-flop with 10s. Just fold that. Really ugly, this hand. You're under heavy ICM pressure. If the button and the small blind are good players, this is a great fold, because what a good player should be doing if you min-raise here is 3-betting you pretty damn wide, because you really cannot continue without the nuts, because you know, you all have a lot of chips and it's 5-handed. You're starting to get towards the big money, so you don't want to bust out here. The payout jumps start getting quite significant, top 5, top 4, top 3. So Mifon is a good reg. Alright, good read to have, so this is definitely a good fold in this situation, because he's going to 3-bet you. He should be 3-betting you. I like the fold with the weak ace. What you should be doing there, not with ace 5, but with hands like queen jack suited, king 10 suited, queen 10 suited, king queen suited, ace 5 suited, just limp. By limping, you prevent them from 3-bet bluffing, and you can then limp call and play a pot out of position if they decide to IC you, and play a smaller pot. So there are some hands you can still play here, but you really need to be limping. If you do want to raise, it needs to be like value only. I mean, you can balance that if you want. You can limp for value with aces and like limp re-raise. I don't know. You can do a lot of things, but without any crazy metagame, I would limp a lot of my playable hands in the cutoff here. Yeah, it's a $3 rebuy, 180 man. Spaglotti. But you don't want to limp ace 5 off because it doesn't play well in a limped spot multi-way. You want to limp the good multi-way hands. I started limping. It's really fun, and people aren't used to it, but it makes a lot of sense in heavy ICM spots where, you know, like you just want to play post flop, and you know they want to 3-bet you, but you're not letting them 3-bet you. Takes text files. The hand history looks like this: complex in a text file. It's got hands in it. Call, check fold. So now that you have position, you can raise this. Okay, oh well, bad luck. That's super nitty. I mean, getting 3-1 suited ace, I'd just call. Just call, see a flop. He tank called Jack 9 suited. The fuck? Here. Weird, I just loaded a text file and the hand didn't pop up. You have to find it in your saved hand history folder, Complex Koala. So if you play on PokerStars, wait, I'll tell you how to do it. There you go. That's how you find the hand history. Yeah, this is pretty nitty as well. Although it's fairly awkward to play this. You can 3-bet as a bluff, but if the guy's like a a green player, an unknown, and he's sticky, you don't want to 3-bet because they're not going to fold. I'm tempted to call, but the problem is the regular in the big blind might squeeze shove. I think I would still call and just pray that the reg doesn't have anything. Yeah, but like Queen Jack against the button min raise is pretty strong. I've been calling more in my small blinds in this spot. Like, you want to play hands that are like nice broadways against weak players, even out of position. And it's just a min raise. So I'd probably call there. And just hope that the big blind reg doesn't decide to squeeze. Call here as well, getting 5-1 with Jack 10. Oh, this is awkward. Like, ISOing this hand's so ugly, especially against the chip leader. Yeah, I think I just fold. There's ICM now that we're four-handed, everyone's pretty equal stacked. I really love this fold as well, because we're four-handed. Yeah, you know, you're raising into the chip leader. It's okay raising this as a steal, but in this spot, I think you're going to get free bet fairly frequently, and because the chips that you lose are worth way more than any chips that you can gain at this point, because we're, you know, very late in the tournament, you don't want to be making big risky steals there. I know, ChristaBorg. Whoa! We've got a regular in the chat, you guys, battling it out. Welcome to the stream, Brispan. Ooh, Chris, I like it. That's aggressive. It's certainly aggressive. So there's two things to do. You can just call, or you can shove all in. Shoving all in is better. It's all dependent on the button though. Like, the small blind, he has nothing all the time, so you're not really worried about him. I mean, you're slightly worried if the small blind is a really spazzy calling station, and you think he's going to call here anyway with like King Jack. That's not good for you. But if the small blind is just your standard kind of loose, taggy player, where he's not going to spaz call all in here with King 10 suited, then and the button is a loose stealer, this is a great play. But if the button is like tight, or the small blind is a station, I would just call and see a flop. What's up, Kagatimir? I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing some reviews. Good to see you. Can't play from PS, trying to add Bovada and bet online hand history is not working. Oh, complex koala. It's hard to do those hand histories. I don't know how to do them. Someone in chat has sent me a Bovada hand history before, but I think they had to Google how to do it. I'm not sure, dude. Sorry, you'll have to figure that out. Google might be able to help you how to convert Bovada hand histories. Yeah, this is just junk. We can fold that. Oh, this is so awkward. I mean, I think jamming's profitable. Is it better than min raising? Probably on the button, because like we know the small blinds are regular, so he's going to reshove fairly frequently, and the big blind might do that as well. I think the best play is just to shove with small pairs. Yeah, because this sucks. But if they're unknown players, or they're type players, min raising is better. Another situation where you don't really want to raise call 8s here, with the ICM implications of, you know, the money jump being close to top 2 heads up. Raise calling 8s, four-handed, is very marginal, and I think you'd rather just shove all in for 20 big blinds. There aren't a lot of hands, again, that I would do this with. 8s, 7s, 9s, ace jack, ace queen, maybe. I might raise call ace queen for value, but like ace jack, ace 10 suited, ace 9 suited, ace 8 suited, you just shove all in with this spot for 20 big blinds. So I think you show a profit doing that, but anything else is just really awkward because you have to raise fold. Alright, what was that? 10-6. Okay, let's give that up. Oh man, you're playing with fire. I don't mind it because you've been fairly tight against him. He might give you some credit here. The first time you've been raised in a while. I think it's better than limping because of the way that we've been playing. Game flow, right? Game flow. We've been very tight. So now that you min raise, it looks really strong. Yeah, like this is a game flow raise. Again, because you've been very tight, you're starting to open up a little bit in the cutoff, but you can just fold this with the ICM implications. I just check. I just check here. I mean, 6, 5, 10. It's not the worst flop, but it's not that great either. And you do have some showdown value with ace 7 high. He might even try and just bluff you on this board because he's got a lot of chips. So I just check. I check and then plan on calling a turn card and seeing a river card. Trying the raise again. See, like this time I might limp because you raised last time. Just a game flow thing. Well, I guess we're barreling. If you bet here, you have to 2-barrel, because this is the kind of board where a regular is floating you 100%. He's floating jack high here, just to see what you do on the turn, because it's a very dry board. So if you put in the barrel, you have to 2-barrel. You got to have those balls to at least 2-barrel. You don't have to 3-barrel, because I think regs at this stake don't really call down 3 barrels too light, but they'll definitely call the flop barrel very light. So you have to plan for 2 barrels, which means you can bet flops smaller, setting yourself up because you know you're barreling turn and you don't want to bet too big on the turn. So I'd go for like 10,000, 12,000, and then turn you can bet 20. Just set yourself up for 2 barrels no matter what. Must be 2 barrels here. Yeah, that's the line. Barrel, barrel, and then cry and burn money on the river. Exactly. Big fan of your decisions on when to check and when not to, and how to get value out of ace high post op. Thank you, Chris. Hopefully I can teach you about how to play those weak showdown value hands. Bets. Good. I might go for a bit bigger bet because it's a very wet board and he's got a lot of chips. So I'd probably go for 22,000, 25,000, I think. Bet, bet, bet. Funny thing about this hand is that if you would bet, let's say you bet 25 here, the turn will be 90,000 and you'll have 187. So then turn you can bet 55, and on river you'll have 1 pot size bet left. So the follow-on effects of not betting flop 5,000 chips more means that you can't shove this river and get max value. So like bet sizing is a pretty big deal in some situations, and this is a really good example of like compounding effects of setting yourself up with value hands. So it does take like a little bit of time, but if you're in a situation like this where you know you're 3-barreling, you know you're going bet, bet, shove, try and think through bet sizes to how to get all of your chips in comfortably. So yeah, 20, what'd I say? 25 on the flop, then turn will be 90,000 and you can bet 50, right? So you're getting 20,000 extra value on the turn, and then river, the pot will be 190 and you'll have like 130 left and you just shove. So yeah, you definitely messed up bet sizes, but you said that earlier. So what happened here? He just donks. Fuck me. Did he shove? I got a call 69, like... Yeah, you beat flush draws, so... I think getting 3 to 1, you got a call there. That was a fun hand. 3 days ago, on the bubble, 10 players left. cashes 4 times the buy-in. Jesus, that's a big bubble. One person has 5, other person has 8. I'm the 8th. 12 big blinds, ace jack. I pushed big blind, 15, call with ace queen, I lost. Oh, that's pretty gross. Can he do calculation? You can, Kagatamir. But I feel like your push there will be profitable. You just got really unlucky that not only did the guy have ace queen, but he actually called ace queen. I don't even know if ace queen is a call there with his stack against your range. I live in Sydney, sluggers. Seb's hungry, guys. I'm gonna feed him in a little bit. Come here. What are you doing? You get some food after this game, alright? Probably just fold because he's the short stack. Nice raise. What are you doing? Stop scratching things. Yeah, I like this one. Nice. Putting pressure on everyone. If you can get the small blind to fold, the big blind's going to be very tight. That's a great raise. I mean, I call because you're getting 3 to 1, and if you do play post flop, he's going to be under a lot of pressure. So even though it is queen 4, the hand's terrible, I would play this hand, but I know a lot of people wouldn't. I just want to bully him. We're getting really good odds, so fuck it, man. Any 2 cards. You want to play post flop out of position in that spot with me? Let's go. I'll play. So you can just shove this, which I think is what I would do against a regular. Because if you min raise, he might just call and see a flop, and ace 5 suited. Yeah, like it's definitely plus EV to push this. So I'd rather just push against the regular, prevent him from making, you know, prevent him from realizing his equity and seeing flops and maybe possibly pushing pre-flop looser. Yeah, I think it is profitable there, Kagak Demir. Like everyone's folded to you, and you're in the cutoff and you have ace jack. What else are you gonna do? You're just gonna fold? I think it's plus EV to push that. If it's a very tight table, you might be able to limp there, Kagak Demir. But I don't think pushing is bad. They have to call you very tight. Please raise. Just raise. Any 2 cards here, because the guy is under a lot of pressure with 19 big blinds. You have a huge stack, so just raise 40,000 and he's kind of fucked. So, yeah, call. Bets. Good. No, why? I know he's a reg, but ICM, right? He's in second. Just raise again, or limp stab, or shove. I think shove is profitable with any 2 cards, or a loose range, because, you know, he's got 20 big blinds, he's in second place. He doesn't want to fuck around here, so please play this hand. This one's way worse, because you're raising into the short stack, who's, you know, probably committed, but if he's a tight player, I guess it's okay. Yeah, you got to raise call. The odds are too good, but Queen 7 is not that great in this spot. So if everyone can see you, stop it. Chat is watching you. What's up, Meta7? First time tuning in. Hey, thanks. Glad you like the stream. Hope you enjoy your stay. Hit that follow button if you like the stream. Sellout time. Hey, you too, Cantino AA. Glad you like it. Min raise. That's not a good flop against his big blind defend range. Think of all the hands that he calls his big blind. 9, 10, 8, 9, Jack 8, Jack 9, Jack 10, Queen 10, Queen 9, Queen 8, King Queen, King Jack. None of those are folding. You only have Ace High, so just check. Now that he's checked twice, I think with the flush draw we can definitely bet And if he does check call, we can bluff rivers. Because he's checked twice, he probably doesn't have a queen. Like, the best hand he can really have here is a 9 or an 8. So, your plan is to 2-barrel after he checks twice. Wow, that's a big raise. So ugly. I mean, he's committing himself, he probably likes his hand. King Jack. I don't want to push. Like, do we call here for 30,000? Nah, I think folding's fine. It's just such a big raise. I would call to a min raise. Alright, I'm gonna go feed Seb because he's gonna cut my walls up if I don't. Be right back, guys. Alright, I'm back. Sorry, guys. He will not stop scratching the wall until I feed him. Got a kitty sleeping on me right now. I think that's what he wants. Hey Benji, how you doing? That number's not so depressing. It was depressing me this morning, but yeah, we're doing well. So heads up time. Call. Value bet. No, please value bet. You have top pair. 20,000. The reason why you bet instead of check calling is people are usually passive, unknown. So this is a reg, but still he's check back flop, so he's weak-ish, and you want to get value here from 5x, 4x, and I don't know, draws. But like, he's not going to bet those hands. He's only going to bet here with a queen, which is probably better than your queen. Yeah, it's just a value bet. Like, he's probably calling ace high. Like, check calling, you just put yourself in the cage a little bit, and I think you lose value. So now what do? You check, and like, he's not really gonna bet. I mean, you have to check call, but he's gonna check back all of his showdown value that you beat, and he's value betting better hands sometimes, and sometimes he's bluffing. But the real issue with this hand, by checking a check call line, is that you lose value against weaker showdown value hands. Like 5x, 4x, maybe a really weak 10 decided to check the flop. All those hands, you lose value against by check calling. Yeah. Well, you got unlucky, but you know, I don't think you played the hand correctly. Alright, fold 10-3. You can limp this, but you're pretty deep. You were loading up the gun there. Ace, ace, X heads up against the reg. You're like 3-barreling the shit out of that. Go on, let's go, bro. Do you have it? No, he doesn't have it. They never have it, and they just call pre-flop. I probably wouldn't c-bet this board against the reg. It's just, they like playing back. You have some backdoors, but the hand is pretty marginal. So I probably would not be betting that one. We can fold 5-3. I don't mind that raise. Just call. King 7 heads up. Again, it's not a very good flop to be c-betting. Yep, nice check. Well, yeah, I think you can call because not only do you have the draw, but you can represent hands like a jack, and he might give up. Let's say he has a better draw, like a flush draw, like a 9 high, 10 high flush draw. If he misses, he might just give you credit for a jack, and then you can like value bet bluff the river. Yeah, so if he had checked here, you could bet 30,000 and get him to fold better high cards and represent a jack. But because he's betting small into you, he can easily just have 2 pair, top pair, so you got to give it up. But you're hoping that he checked there. But you have outs as well. Did you win anything? No. I only played a few events, Kagak Demir. And any tips? Run good. It's my best tip. Just play your game, dude. It's hard to win a lot of money when there's 10,000 people in every tournament. Benji, yeah, I'm good. It's been a while. Glad you're here. Just chilling out. I'm very tempted to reverse float with 10 high with some backdoors. But his 30,000, I don't know, it's a big c-bet, so he might just have something. Well, we go for the check raise. The problem with check raising is that you represent much less, a much tighter range compared to a check call. With a check raise, you're really representing like 2 overcards and a flush draw, or top pair, or 2 pair. But I don't know, like I think if you're gonna mess around with him, just check call and represent a 5 or a 6, and you can also represent draws using that line. You're not taking a big risk, but also there are more turn cards. Like you want to see a turn here with 8, 10 of diamonds, because the 7, any diamond, any 7, 8 or 10 is a good card for you. So like that's a decent chunk that you can continue with on the turn, and you don't want to get blown off your hand here. It's awkward. I think that you just don't represent much by check raising this board. I mean, I'd probably just check fold against his c-bet of 30,000 because it looks really strong. But if you do want to mess around there, I'd probably prefer check calling. I haven't discovered the magical abilities of lifting the button. I'm glad you have discovered them now. Exactly. Check, call, flop, check, raise, some fun turns. That's a really strong line. Very powerful. You can even check, call twice and like lead river. Or you can check, call twice, check, raise river. Like there's a lot of funky lines you can take because you're pretty deep. Relatively. Yeah, but like the issue with check raising is you just don't represent very much, and because he's a reg, he probably knows that. Huh? This guy is so full of shit. I mean, I'd auto raise here. How can he have a pair? Or anything, really. I'd auto raise. I'd just click it back. Make it 55. Make it 55,000, yeah. That's pretty nitty. Like, he just called pre-flop. How can he have a 6? Or like 8s or 9s? He just has nothing there. Yeah, click it back. That's what I would do. I'd get into a click raising war. Although you guys saw once when I was playing a 180 man, heads up in a 180 man. I had a similar spot to that where it was a paired board, and I c-bet like jack high, and the guy click raised, and I just ripped it in because it's a paired board, and how can he have anything? And he had trips, so I got wrecked. Sometimes I have trips, but I think it's fairly unlikely. I would be calling this because it's king high and you're getting odds, and he's probably on a loose range. Bet, bet, bet. I'd be tempted to reverse float here as well. Like, you know he has nothing. You're gonna check raise again, I can feel it. Oh, you just fold, okay. Play this hand. Raise, limp, whatever. Ooh, the bluff. This is not good, because this hand you want to see flops and play post flop, but by 3-betting, you turn it into a bluff. He can just shovel in now with any ace, any pair, even some more bluffs that, like Jack 10 suited, he just might bluff and shovel in, and you have to fold this, and that's not what you want. You want to see a flop, so you just call this kind of hand, and you 3-bet bluff like Queen 3 off. 3-bet bluff with Jack 5 suited. 3-bet bluff with Jack 2 off. Like, more hands that just suck. Don't 3-bet bluff Queen Jack suited. Yeah. I'm glad you recognize that. Nice heads up match. I think we're getting our asses kicked at the moment. I'd play this like limp, but you said you didn't know about limping heads up yet, so I won't give you too much crap for that. I'd probably call here, cause we've almost 20 big blinds and it's suited. Call. I mean, it's a big shove. I'd probably just call and like just be prepared to call him down with second pair, because I think you get more value from your hand doing that. It's very unlikely that he's calling you here with a 6, so if you do get called, he's either got a very good draw or a better 8 or a 10. So I feel like you're turning your hand into a bluff, and I know there are some really ugly cards, but it's kind of an overshove. It's not that bad, I guess. The pot's 50,000. I think the line's okay to check shovel in because the pot's decent. It's alright, it's just, I don't know, I prefer to just check call because I think people don't like play that well on turns and rivers, so. Yeah, got destroyed. It's alright, we're trying to teach you, Chris, to get better heads up. I'm learning as well. Yeah. It's a king! That's a king! King is almost as good as ace. That's a jack! Why are we folding? It hurts. Like, I'd call this as well because like I like floating against regs in these spots because they really don't know what to do. Yeah, it's fine. You can limp. Fold. No, you're folding kings. Just shove. Like you said, the guy's much better than you, heads up, so when you get like any draw, any pair, just check shovel in. Well done. I like it. What's his bet sizing? Yeah, it's fine. Call, Queen 8, raise, or limp. Raise. Way too tight, but I'm assuming that you fix this leak. Chris. Yeah, 3-8 seems like a Nash push. Alright. Chris played this hand